Like, do you subscribe to McKenna's theory? I know we've probably talked about this
Yeah,
before,
we
but
talked about
as
it,
a standalone podcast, this is probably...
Joe, this is what I like, and for all your listeners out there, this is a never-ending story.
Right.
It just keeps on getting better. The most exciting thing that has come out in the scientific literature in the past 2 years is that psilocybin stimulates neurons to grow.
Right.
That is incredible. It docks with the 5-HT2A receptor, is that serotonin uses, but psilocybin also docks with track B receptors that lead to proliferation of neurons. There's neurogeneration, neuroregeneration, neurogenesis, and neuroplasticity. Those are four distinct areas, and psilocin does all of those. Not as much in neurogenesis, but we have done pluripotent stem cells of humans, dosed them with psilocin in the laboratory. We have a DEA license, I have a DEA license, very, very strictly controlled. But we can actually see the proliferation of neurons compared to controls. So this is why I want to emphasize to all scientists, especially older scientists that are stuck in their wisdom, that are very comfortable with their knowledge base, and younger scientists come up with these ideas, and is that be more circumspect, because what Dennis and Terence McKenna postulated, and I disagree with lots of Terence's ideas. Time wave zero was my total bullshit. But Terence and I were very good friends, and we laughed a lot. And that's why that spirit of camaraderie, where you can criticize someone and laugh at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a higher level of intelligence.
Well, that's also what happens when you abandon the ego, right?
Yeah.
If the ego's consistently abandoned through psychedelic experiences, you're much more likely to laugh at
I think
yourself.
psilocybin is an Einstein molecule. I think the tryptamines in general are Einstein molecules. The work by Dolden is just fantastic, also associated with Johns Hopkins, the critical window. And this is why ibogaine has gotten such traction. The critical window with ibogaine is a long window where you're able to repattern your behavior to break addiction. With psilocybin, there's a critical window. DMT is very, very short because of the short period. The critical window typically is at the peak of the experience, just as you're over the hump, going down. But one patient described it very, very well, who was an addict. And the patient said before the psilocybin experience, they were literally stuck in a rut, and they visually saw themselves on a ski slope, going down the ski slope again and again and again, stuck in the rut.
Yeah.
And then after the psilocybin, it's like someone groomed the landscape, the hill.
And they're free.
And they were free to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then Josh Siegel, this past year, from Washington University, published a study that specifically showed in real time dendritic branchings of neurons under the influence of psilocybin in real time. I think psilocybin, which becomes psilocin, what docks with your receptors. Psilocybin is stable, psilocin is not. Psilocybin dephosphorylates into psilocin. It crosses into your receptors, it stimulates inside the nucleus of cells that cause cell division. And this is mind-boggling. I think this is why high doses of psilocybin, great for a revelatory experience, for perhaps breaking addiction, but what about the near normals? We all suffer from neurodegeneration that's age-related. Besides Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia that are toxin or disease-related, in and of itself as a disease, you could argue, age being one. But neurodegeneration is a fact of life as we age, and neuropathies occur. And then neuropathies from the constriction of the peripheral nervous system, vasoconstriction, etc. Psilocin is not only anti-inflammatory, but neurogenerative. And to have this coupled together, I think that the nootropic vitamins of psilocybin, as a daily consumable, is something that has a great future potential. Of course, we need to study this, but long-term clinical studies are inherently very expensive. A short time stay in a hospital for one, huge event may be expensive for that day, but it's easier to design a clinical study that has a short period than a long period. I think that we're beginning to see. Now, we think about 8 million Americans consume psilocybin in 2023, according to the RAND report. What was the reduction in crime? With those 8 million people.
Mm.
If we could have studied that.
Right.
And there are retroactive studies, analyses that show a reduction of crime associated with psilocybin use. But in real time, that's something I'm very excited about. Could you reduce crime rates? And moreover, when you're immunologically, when you're depressed emotionally, you're immunologically depressed.
Yes.
And when you're happier, you're more creative, you're exercising, your immune system is upregulated.
Right.
So the community immunity from psilocybin,
Yeah.
I think, is a huge potential. There's a crossover directly between your mental, your neuroscape, and your immunological state.
Unquestionably, right? The diminishing of stress.
And this is why
Profound benefits physiologically.
clinical study just came out, Compass Pathways, did treatment-resistant depression. They had analysis that came back out that showed modest increase or decrease in depression, but they were looking at treatment-resistant depression, and congratulations for them for putting their money where their mouth is and doing the study. But treatment-resistant depression is the failure of 2 antidepressant drugs and therapy. And so, but major depressive disorder is a much bigger bucket. And so I think there are some extreme conditions that we're not going to find the signal from the noise that's significant enough to make a big difference. But the idea of titrating psilocybin or psilocin, maybe after a hero's journey, and then after remembering, revisit those same neurological pathways that gave you an advantage by taking psilocin or psilocybin. The act of taking it again, you're remembering, and then you can nurture these neurons. I think psilocybin could be nutrients for the neurons.
Well, let's, in an effort to make this a standalone podcast, let's explain what we're talking about. Because what we're talking about is Terence's stoned ape theory. And his theory involved a lot of contributing factors, one of them being climate change. And the theory was that as the rainforest receded into grasslands, you get more ungulate animals, and they leave behind poop, and that these lower primates find these mushrooms that are growing on the poop, and they experiment with them. And that the ones that did increased visual acuity, they became more amorous, they were more likely to breed, more creative, the ability to form sentences, glossolalia, associate sounds with objects and concepts, and that this is probably how language formed among humans. And Terence's connection to that, when you look at the timeline of when this was happening, when we know this was happening, which coincides with the growth of the human brain, which over a period of 2 million years doubled in size, which is pretty phenomenal.
200,000 years, it increased massively. So 2 million years on the outer limits, 200,000 in the inner limits.
So in the inner limits, what was the amount of growth in the 200,000 years?
I think it was 40-50%, something substantial.
200,000 years, 50%.
Yeah.
And what time period was this?
Well, 200,000 years ago.
200,000 years ago.
There was a jump. And
but like Homo sapiens in this form have existed more than 200,000 years, though, right? No.
Homo sapiens are relatively recent. I look at the estimates go back and forth depending on what experts you're consulting and whatnot. But from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens was a radical jump that was fairly recent. So
I was under the impression it was more than 300,000 years ago.
It could be 200,000, could be 400,000, but it's our enlargement of our brain is relatively recent. And to give more context, Dennis McKenna and I were just together.
I love that dude.
Dennis McKenna is a fantastic friend and scientist, and he's such a good man.
Well, he does such a brilliant job of explaining the mechanism behind the stone ape theory.
Yeah.
Like Terence had a great way of talking. He was so interesting to listen to, and had these wonderful ideas. But Dennis is like much more of a hardcore scientist.
Dennis is a scientist, and his brother
breaks it down.
Was a philosopher.
Yeah.
And the Dennis McKenna Academy is a nonprofit. I'm just promoting it just because I think they do really, really good work. But this is, the 23 primates eat mushrooms. Almost all mushrooms have maggots in them. Most primates eat maggots. So finding the mushrooms for maggots, for food, for protein, two things can be true.
Right.
You can find the maggots, eat the mushrooms, and then get high as a community.
Right.
But all these, again, this is an example about an example of the art that we see thousands of years ago. We can debate this in the past, but we can test this. This is a testable hypothesis.
Right.
It's a theory now. It's not a hypothesis. We know that psilocybin stimulates neuron proliferation. Terence did not have and Dennis did not have the scientific evidence for that 30 years ago. We now have the evidence for it now. Terence and Dennis McKenna should go down in evolutionary biology as the two individuals who could see in the far event horizon way before the scientific method. How did they come up with that? Because they were tripping on mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why scientists using psychedelics is a quantum leap. It's how PCR was invented.
Carrie Mullis.
Had a trip on LSD. Crick and DNA. And Stephen Jobs. Silicon Valley is fueled by psychedelic thinkers who are becoming more creative. And I think we have a crisis in creativity, and psilocybin is a way for us to become smarter, more congenial, more collaborative.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think we can. This combines psychedelics with AI. We have an opportunity for a quantum leap in the evolution of the human species.
Would you mind explaining time wave zero? Because we kind of glossed over that too. Hey, big deep breath.
So such a skeptic. Time wave zero is an algorithm that Terence, in one of his stone moments, I think. Terence is the only person that I met who could smoke me under the table and could stand up and give an incredibly perfect lecture. I don't know how he could do it. But time wave zero, and I'm sorry for those people who are time wave zero experts, you can criticize me if you wish, but I admit my ignorance to a degree, is an algorithm that was created that would predict events in history.
Would track novelty.
And episodic events that change the course of human history.
Right.
He didn't have the birth of Jesus Christ as a significant event. He was sort of anti-Christian. I said, Terence, I don't care if you're Christian or not. The birth of Jesus Christ was a huge friggin' phenomenon. It changed the course of history.
Right.
And then he had time wave zero would end on December 12th, 2012. And that's what he predicted.
December 21st,
Yeah, December 21st, 2012. And that didn't happen either.
I used to have a license plate that said 12/21/12.
Yeah. So, but it's what I like about Terence, and I would encourage all prospective scientists, if you don't worry about tenure, if you got a thick skin, dare to be wrong. Because you dare to be wrong a dozen, 20, 30 times, you might be hitting one or two concepts that is game-changing.
Right. If
don't
you're
have the fear of failure inhibit your creativity.
But that's a giant problem in the academic world, is that people who do fail get attacked. And
viciously.
And especially if they step outside the lines, they propose something that's novel, they get attacked. This time wave zero thing, like you used to be able to get it. It was an actual program that you could download and you could run it on your own computer.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I talked to Terence. I go, well, what happens when, the birth of Jesus Christ?
Where did he come up with that concept? Did you ask him about that?
No, I never figured it out. He goes, well, just adapt the algorithm. I said, okay, then it's not really, it's just something that's constantly adapting itself. So anyhow, it's a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And
obviously, I wish he was alive. On December 21st, 2012, I'd be like, and what? But maybe we're wrong. Maybe in that timeline, something did happen on December 21st, 2012 that will be recognized in the future.
I doubt it.
Well, this is what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
One of the things that did happen in that time frame is the ubiquitous use of social media. It kind of started peaking around 2012. I think there is a real problem with that, with the human race. And I don't necessarily think we recognize things that are constant. I think we just get accustomed to things, and human beings are very adaptable, and we just accept things that this is the way it is. But before that time, when you get to like 2000, just go to 2000, people weren't carrying their phones around staring at them all day. There's a profound change in how we interface with the world.
In Korea now, on the sidewalks, they have red bars that light up to tell you to stop.
Oh boy.
Because too many people are walking out into the street.
Just standing there staring at their
phones. So now they look down, they see that.
They're so addictive. It's so crazy that we have anything that's that addictive can't be good for you. I don't care if you're getting information all day long. And in the sense of social media, you're getting negative information all day long. So it changes
And
the
it's
perspective.
clickbait. Tremendous
Yes.
amounts of clickbait.
Well, that
you
was
know?
the problem we were talking about the media earlier, about the media fueling this stuff. That's their job, unfortunately. In this day and age where no one's buying print journalism, their job is to get you to click on something. And so they have these crazy headlines.
We need to really have a thoughtful discussion about all the issues that we are facing today without being reactionary.
Yes, and I think
And-
we need to disengage with these things that are clickbait. Just don't click on them. The way these things operate is the more you click on them, the more valuable they are, right? That's the whole business model. Just don't engage with them. And we need to teach people that. Like, this is an important thing. Don't engage with something that's trying to manipulate you. Don't engage with these narratives that are being put forth by corporations that value your fear. They want you to be in this constant state of anxiety and fear, and they want you to be a dutiful consumer, and that's it. And
That's why high doses of psilocybin is not a very good business model.
Exactly.
As Michael Pollan likes to say.
But it is a good business model for overall human compassion and growth
It
and
is.
community.
And then, of course, medium and microdosing